We're not done yet with burnout. In this episode, we're going to expand on it and tell us our best ideas on how to prevent it and how to get to the point where you can avoid it. My name is Mike.
It's Yuen.
Welcome to the Imperfect Clinician. So how do you, for example, distinguish feeling tired and burnout? And when is that trigger? When is that moment that you say, I've had enough? And when is it a true I've had enough? Because we often say I've had enough, but we don't actually mean it.
Yeah, I think we need to first rule out medical reasons, whether you have low iron or low thyroid or whichever reason that might contribute to the tiredness. But if it's not because of that, usually with tiredness, we have a bit more resilience. Let's say if we eat better, we sleep more, then we can bounce back. Whereas if it's chronic, where it's ongoing, where we feel continuously tired, doesn't matter how much I sleep, I am still feeling that. And then adding on to that, it's very rarely just a singular symptom. You add on all the symptoms that we talked about previously, for example, low motivation, feeling quite defeated, feeling quite overwhelmed, and all of that, you are in that state majority of the time. I think that would be a clearer distinction between the feeling tired and feeling burnout. And you ask when do you think you've had enough? I think sometimes I say I've had enough when I'm reacting, like I'm angry or I'm fed up. Whereas I've had enough, especially from the physical perspective, where I don't have the energy to carry on anymore. That is the stage where you think a red flag.
Yeah, when you have nothing in your tank.
Yes.
And you have nothing to give. I think that's a fair point. I think we often, from a tiredness, from stress on a daily basis, we are able to, pick it up, and we are able to bounce back with a little bit of care and self-compassion. We can bounce back and start a new day fresh. But those days can get progressively worse, and if it's prolonged, then when we can, I want to compare burnout to the immunity system or a threshold for burnout, okay? So you have a certain level of immunity, and you are constantly attacked by all sorts of different germs and bacteria and viruses, and that's when our immune system is able to shake it off, provided those triggers are not exceeding the threshold of our immunity.
Yep.
If they're exceeding the threshold, if they just pip just above the line, that's when we can become symptomatic. So that's when you can become poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I think that there is an analogy to a burnout threshold. So we have got some sort of barrier. That's the threshold that we can withstand. And there is plenty of things that are, workload, colleagues, management, whatever it is. And in most cases, we are able to fend it off, to understand it, we have capacity to recover, to bounce back from that. However, that threshold, similar to the immunity threshold, we can work on it. We can make sure that it serves us a bit better. We can make this empty cup that we have a little bit bigger so that it empties a little bit slower. When your immunity drops because of you not looking after yourself, for example, properly, or because of other underlying conditions, sometimes medications, then there is a bigger chance for those normally triggers that wouldn't bother us, that they can become more prominent and they can make us even more poorly or start another infection. Okay. And it's a bit the same with the threshold for burnout. Sometimes the threshold is quite low because of the situation you're in, because of how you've been looking after yourself, because of people around you, like your family, and other situations that are not necessarily dependent on you as well. So there is a way that we can try to boost this level to make sure that the threshold for becoming poorly in the immune system and becoming poorly in the burnout system, becoming overwhelmed by the situation, that we can make ourselves better prepared for it. And surprisingly, some of those things with immunity and burnout are quite similar. When we look after ourselves in terms of eating well, sleeping well, resting well, finding time to play, finding time to recover, moving. What else have you got there, darling? To do ourselves, to do for ourselves to make us better organically, somatically.
I would say be kind to yourself in terms of self-talk and what you say to yourself in your head, and to ensure that you have support system both professionally and personally. And the other thing would be setting boundaries. So saying no, not just at work, but also from a social perspective where, no, this is a night where I need to recover or I need to just rest and be, so I'm not going to go out. The other thing I would say is breathing exercises.
To some of that thought on how we can stretch this threshold and build it a little bit so that the burnout is maybe never achieved, or maybe we have like a breathing, a bit of air above how we feel. We need to learn how to say no, to set boundaries, move, because that keeping us active is going to make our body feel better.
Yeah, whether it's exercise, whether it's just going for a walk, it doesn't have to be where you are completely out of breath.
We have to get those endorphins going. We need to sleep well. Try to make sure we sleep well. We should nourish our body. Make sure that we drink plenty, eat healthily, because that has an impact on how body is going to say thank you to us. I think also part of it should be reflection. Mm-hmm. We should be able to reflect on the day, on situation, on the progress, or the regress, whatever we are. We have to have a habit of reflecting of the things that have happened so that we can put it to rest.
Yeah, it doesn't build up.
Yeah, it doesn't build up. Be kind to yourself. Also in terms of how you talk to yourself. This is very important. There is a difference. We were talking about it in previous episode. There is a difference between saying, oh, I'm stupid, and I've done a stupid thing. There is a huge difference in how you perceive yourself and how your ears are listening about yourself, because you shouldn't put yourself down.
Your brain.
Your ears and your brain. Yeah. Evaluating support system is very important as well in both settings, professionally but also personally. Make sure that you have got the right support at the right time with the right intensity. Yuen, are there any quick fixes? We can have a bad day. We can feel like, right, this is heading in the direction where I'm going to say I've had enough. What can we do something quickly? Can we increase that threshold quickly?
Breathing exercises. Something that you can do regularly in small chunks. It doesn't have to take 30 minutes when you sit down and meditate, but it can be something that you incorporate into your daily practice. And I think creating those daily habits is important. So trying to do it proactively instead of reactively will have a better impact, because reactive is more short term. So when you feel unwell, you eat and sleep better.
And you learn how to do it better as well with breathing. I mean, I thought that through my 40-odd years, I'll be able to have a general idea of how to breathe, but I'm still learning. Anyway, how do we breathe?
Show us
the leader.
ways. So you can, this is one of the most common one that I say to my patients, 4 in, 5 out. So you count, so inhale, so do it with me.
Okay.
So inhale, and I'll count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then breathe out in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh my goodness, I haven't got that much breath. Can I do 3 and 4?
Yes, you can do 3 and 4, but essentially you are trying to make your exhalation longer than your inhale. So you are activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So your body is calming down.
Okay, should we do it again?
Yep.
So maybe you, the listener, can do it with me. Okay, let's learn together. Come on.
Okay. Do you want to do 4 and 5?
Yeah,
Or-
you count 4, 5. Yeah, let's risk it. Okay. Let's have a, phone ready for the ambulance just in case. Okay.
So inhale, 1, 2.
Hang on, I haven't started. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that can be one way of doing it.
Excellent.
And doing it just 2-3 times just help you reset. These are little reset spots that you can do.
I think that focusing on the breath also takes your mind off things and allows you to reassess, come back clear to the problem.
On the counting and focusing on the breath. The other thing that you can do is breathe normally, but you start an internal scan. So, for example, you breathe as usual, but you have your eyes closed.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And then you focus on your breathing. Just keep an eye on it.
Don't fall asleep.
New listeners can try doing it as well, not when you're driving, of course. And then you focus on relaxing your jaw, focusing on relaxing your shoulders and your arms and your neck.
I'm moving about.
And you can feel your chest moving up and down, focusing on the air coming in and out of your nose, focusing on the sounds around you.
I have your calming voice. That's good.
And then you open your eyes. So it's like a very quick check-in just to see where you are, because we tense muscles up unconsciously. And unless you have the practice of just closing your eyes and checking that, it's helpful for you to do that. So these are 2 of many, many different ways that are available, but I find these 2 are quite easy to do on a, if you have
you
20
know how I felt?
seconds.
I felt like I've fainted. That's my idea of...
Okay.
No, but listen to this. I felt like it was my idea of fainting. I don't think I've ever fainted in my life as far as I can remember, but that's how I feel, because fainting is essentially resetting the system.
Yeah, okay.
It's the nature way of, switching off and switching back on.
It's an extreme, okay.
Yeah, because you land on the floor, then you usually faint because of the blood pressure dropping, okay?
Or a few other reasons.
Yeah,
yes.
there's a few other reasons. But, when you land on the floor, all of a sudden, all the vessels and all the heart and everything else is in the same level, and the pressures balance out around the body, and you come back fresh as a daisy. Will you explain fresh as a daisy as well to our listeners?
I know what you mean.
Fresh as a daisy for those people listening in English countries is fresh as a fresh.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how else to explain it. Yeah, so it's having different ways, whether you're focusing on your breathing and the counting to just take you out of it, or focusing on how your body's feeling now, relaxing the muscles that usually are tensing up, eye muscle, jaw muscle, neck muscle, shoulder muscle, for example.
Yeah, but you also talk about the filling the cup. Can you tell us a little bit more, go back to the filling the cup? Because I think it's important in the context of preventing burnout.
Yeah, and I did this the other day and it worked really well now. I'll share a little bit more. So filling in the cup. So there is a cup where you fill it up before the day takes some of the energy away. So this is when you feel completely refreshed, rejuvenated, your cup is full. And what you do every single day, that fills your cup. So do things that you enjoy, your daily habits that are really important. So we talked about moving, eating, sleeping, all of that fills your cup. And those little daily practices, those fill your cup as well. So making sure you have that. And I did that the other day with the children because they were upset about who was sending them to school. And so I gave them a hug and say, is your cup full or is it half? And she said half. So I gave her another hug and I said, is it full now? She said, no, a little bit more. And I gave her another. And then at the end, she said, it's full. And I said, I'll give you another just to give you something extra because some days can be really hard. And so this is the first time that I'm doing it. This is also the first time she then walked out of the door without any cries. Usually that conversation leads to a cry in terms of who's sending me to school. I want you to visualize that and be able to fill your own cup with the things that you surround yourself with and with the things that you are doing, choose to do, and how you speak to yourself. Because the day can be hard, or maybe is already hard, and it doesn't help when you are draining your own cup by not practicing self-compassion or kind words to yourself.
Wise words. Wise words. Now, I'm going to flip it on its head again. I'm going to ask, can burnout be good? Because we were talking about in a concept that is very destructive, and it's a symptom and it's a effect rather than symptom of things that are going wrong. So my thinking, well, I don't know, what are your thoughts on it? Because I have thoughts on it.
I am torn. I'm torn because I feel in some ways I would like to avoid getting to that stage. So I will do everything that I can. But maybe for some people, that is the only way to elicit change.
Yes, sometimes it's this radical moment in life that can lead to change, to revamp the situation completely. So you could potentially play the burnout card to your advantage. Maybe it's the sign from the nature that, sometimes it could be just one time in a lifetime. There is this need that you want to scream and shout and you want to rebel from what's going on around you. It's usually very difficult to propose a change when you are not at your best self. And it feels like a change that you are forced to do. But it couldn't be a good change. We could, in some circumstances, I think there is capacity for embracing burnout. Hopefully it's not going to lead to any mental health problems and long-term effects on the body and the people around you. But if it's recognized quite early, it might be the sign, at least for some of you. Maybe for me, I don't know. I've not reached that point yet, I think. But I think it could be also an idea for a change.
And you've not reached the point yet because you're trying very hard to do the things that you enjoy. And without them, I have a feeling that, like you said, the threshold would be lower. But like for me,
I think I'm trying to do everything I can to look after myself because I think I'm scared of getting down because of work. I really enjoy what I'm doing and I'm very passionate about, well, whatever I, start doing. And I don't want to lead to the point that I'm going to start hating what I'm doing because I chose to do whatever, my work, this podcast, for example, because it was the need from the heart. And I don't want don't want it to defeat me. I don't want my passion to overwhelm my ability to cope with the stress that it generates.
Agree, and the feeling of dreading to go to work is completely unpleasant.
I think I don't know. I think that to some extent people should have a bit more be a bit more mobile in terms of their ability to adapt to a new situation, to change. But I think that we are deep inside the creatures of our habit, and not all of us feel comfortable with, waking up in the morning today, I'm going to do something else because I couldn't stand what I was doing yesterday. Because it feels to me like you're still searching. I mean, you're still on the go for the things that is going to drive you, and you're still looking for your purpose.
Yeah, and I think change is difficult because we are, like you said, habitual creatures. But I also want to say that it doesn't mean that once you have found your right balance, that you don't need to evolve. And I'll share this with what I was doing before in terms of waking up in the morning, meditate, and then doing any form of movement practice, and then starting work, and then at the end of the day, stretch, meditate, and go back to sleep. That works for me. But with additional responsibilities and additional roles that I've taken on, I have to, which really annoys me, by the way, because I was just like, I've got a good system. Why do I need to change it? But with time and also with additional roles, I need to evolve and I need to adapt. So at the moment, I'm trying to relearn how to set my boundaries. I've added walking before starting work in the morning in nature. And I think nature is always a healer for everyone. However long that walk is, it's helpful to let me regain my balance. I might need to do a bit more journaling. I might need to check in with myself more frequently than before because I have more on my plate. And so if you have a good system, great. Be prepared to constantly evolve and reconnect with yourself. And I think from my perspective, I got a bit complacent with what I've got, and I thought, oh, it works for me with additional things that I take on. It should work for me again, but it wasn't the case. So it was a little bit of reflecting and a lot of kindness to myself to say that I will get back to that equilibrium again.
We are imperfect and we are changing. And I think that's what makes it exciting, I guess, is that we have to grow to stay level. We can't slow down. We have to look for new things that are going to make our cup full again, or bigger, or filled with something nicer.
Yeah, and they always say balance is the hardest thing to do because you don't get to balance and then it stops. You're constantly trying to juggle and constantly trying to balance. It's like standing on a piece of wood or a log and you're trying to balance with one feet. It requires consistent effort and attention, and it changes every day. And so now I've learned to accept that it's a work in progress for me.
So try not to get used to. Okay. I think that burnout is a big thing for a lot of people, and it's a very important thing. It is like being dead when you're alive sometimes. It feels really like you're drowning and there is no help. I trust there is a lot to do from leadership point of view in the organizations, and it can be done despite the pressures from all around us. and we need to take part in looking after ourselves to make sure that our burnout threshold gets us out of the bushes and make sure that we stay on track to balance. So these last 2 episodes were our take on burnout, but what do you think about it? Have you experienced burnout? Are you getting to that point? Or maybe you've been around someone who needed support because of burnout. Let us know. Get in touch on Facebook. You can search the Imperfect Clinician, and we want to hear from you so we can take this discussion further, because I believe it's not the last time we're going to mention burnout in our podcast. Until next week. Bye-bye. It's about time for Yuen Reads.
In today's Yuen Reads, I am talking about Besser van der Kolk book called Body Keeps the Score. This book was written quite a while back, and I felt that he was well ahead of his years because he was reflecting on what he observed then based on at least 30 years of experience. And looking at what we know now, it is mind-boggling because this book, besides helping people and patients, this was one of the books that unlocked my barrier to explore trauma from my past. I weathered past the stress, the anxiety, fears, and tears, and after that felt liberated and relief beyond imagination. And this is something that I can gauge the difference, but people around me notice that I've changed in every way, the way that I carry myself, the way that I learn, the way that I progress afterwards. It feels like the barrier was previously slowing me down, and after removing that, it's as if you've got weights on you, ankle weight or a heavy backpack when you're walking. When you remove them, you finally realize that you are much lighter and you can walk a lot quicker. That was, I think, the closest analogy to how I felt after I've emptied some of my heavy baggage.
Thank you for listening to the Imperfect Clinician podcast.
Grow and learn with us using our experience and flaws, just like we'd learn every day about ourselves. The best way to support us is to hit that follow or subscribe button. Thanks for your participation in our socials. We take to heart the ratings, reviews, and comments.
The best way we can repay you is by making this podcast better and by reaching and inspiring more people like you, like us. Until next time.